Hello. I think we are live. I'm Rob Anderson with Grape and
I'm tapping in. This is Verneda Adele, the founder of America's Hot Sauce.
we are live streaming from both my social platforms as well as hers. And we just have a little bit of, we recently met in a mastermind together, and we decided that it was a good time to go live stream and just tell both of our communities what it is that we're doing, provide an update, and then just have basically an open-ended conversation in sort of a podcast type of format where we're just discussing one topic is anti-racism as well as cybersecurity and maybe anywhere in between. So
yeah, and I think this is really interesting that there is such an intersectionality around those two things. So to your point, I think this would be an awesome opportunity for our communities to cross-pollinate. I'd love for you to share, Rob, what you're doing about your company and just to give a snippet on, who we are. So what you do.
Yeah, so with I'm Rob Anderson, as my community may or may not know, but what we are doing is many different things. But one thing that I will touch on right now is that with Grape we are creating a way that makes your email and your social media private, secure, and so that you actually get paid. And there's so many things that we could talk about, both what we're working on currently, which is a way where people can protect their email and get rid of spam, and also have a voice so that you can finally be heard on social media and you can speak without being censored using encryption and without getting into all the technical nuances. Basically, you can write whatever you want. It's encrypted, so no one can read it. But when you invite your friends to use Grape then they can read it, but big tech can't. So then you can say what you want. And I'd like to just segue and stop right there, because what Grape provides is freedom to speak how you want and freedom from people hacking your data or scamming you. And if we just talk about freedom of speech and focus on that for a moment, I think it relates a lot with what you're doing and anti-racism, because I mean, have you seen, if you talk about what you do, and then maybe we can talk about how it connects. So why don't you take?
I'll definitely do that. I do have a quick follow-up question though, because I think I may have missed the piece where using your platform, using Grape in connection with social media, it helps ensure that you get paid. So I actually just got into some of the monetization features, particularly with Instagram. I'm a creator in that space. And so I'm just curious, so what difference does Grape make versus, Instagram says, hey, attach your bank account and you'll get paid out every time you create a reel or whatever it is. How does Grape tie into that?
Yeah, so we're really focused on email right now, and it also will extend into social media. But just to give you an example, and this is where normally if I was prepared for this specifically, then I could just screen share and show you like a preview of what we're doing. But if you just think about this, if you say you're reaching out to create leads, like you're trying to reach someone at a corporation or someone in a marketing department or just any person in a business, or even personally, or a rock star, you could email them. Your email may never get read, or you could use Grape and when you send your email, you just say, hey, I'm emailing this person and I'll offer them $5 or 5 cents or $10 or whatever it's worth it to you, depending on who you're emailing. I'll offer $5 for them if they actually open and read my email. And then, then when you send it, then you don't get charged unless they actually open your email, and then you get charged, but then they read your email. And that's good for both brands as well, where if you have a subscriber list, like right now, you email a bunch of your subscribers, you spam them. Like right now, the word is, hey, just send your message out more and more, blast it out on social media and on email. And then the problem that we're facing, just everyone collectively, is that we're so overwhelmed with emails and social media posts that
so much.
Yeah. So the way the way that we eliminate that or significantly reduce it is we add a charge on there where every time a business emails us or potentially on social media post, but every time they email us, that if they pay like 3 cents or 5 cents, then when we get, so we're a marketplace. So when a brand pays 3 cents or 5 cents to you and you open it, then you get the majority of that. And it's kind of like eBay, but just for your time and your attention. So,
oh, wow.
yeah.
That's awesome because you're right. So much email. I can think of a couple of like really big business influencers, and you get like sometimes 5 or 6 emails a day. And I
Yeah.
only open once every blue moon for all intents and purposes. But that's like really fascinating.
Yeah, and on the
For
business
anyone,
side,
oh, go ahead.
just one last thing. Yeah, is on the business side, it really makes sense though, because when you as a business email a customer, you may wonder, why am I paying 3 cents? It's not a big deal. But as a user and you actually open it, it guarantees to the business that you'll actually open it and you get a view. So your message is then heard. And then on the consumer side, whoever's opening it, it only takes maybe 3 seconds to just glance at an email and decide, hey, not for me right now. And if you add that up, it ends up being $20 to $40 an hour. For every 3 seconds, if you got 3 cents, that's about $30 or $40 an hour. So
Interesting. That's interesting. I mean, because the one other thing I will say about the organizations or individuals that do send a lot of emails, I know them. Like I have gotten to know who they are. I know their brand. I know what they're for. I don't tap into every single email or what they do, but I do know like when that touch point comes that does resonate, they're always top of mind because you get their emails multiple times a day. Also, on the flip side of this, I would love to get a more effective delete emails to balance it out, because there's also a ton of unopened emails in my inbox that I would happily just have them. Whoop.
Well, you
And what
asked,
I do so
we
far hasn't
deliver.
worked.
You asked, we deliver. That's what comes with it as well. Yeah, an automatic. It'll just, yeah, it analyzes all. Like I have 52,000 emails right now. I'm waiting for this thing to launch, and we're several weeks away. But then it'll analyze all of my 52,000 emails in just a few minutes, and then it'll say, all right, do you want to unsubscribe permanently to this one, to this one? Do you want to roll this up into a summary, or do you want to keep receiving it? So you just pick, for each email and all the emails from that address, you pick what you want to do with it, and then it gets rid of them forever. And then continually, as you keep checking your email, if you see something new that you don't like, then you can add it to your summary, your daily summary, or you can unsubscribe and all that. Yeah, it comes with it too. So
Nice. That's a big one. That's it. The platforms that I've used so far to attempt to do that have not been effective. And yeah, I'm on like 99,000 emails in my Outlook.
oh,
And
I thought I was bad at 52,000.
I know, but it's also like, this is like my old Outlook. It's not my everyday business one, but it is the email that I just subscribe to all the stuff, all the clothing brands, all those things that you are just like your, junk email. It's a lot of email that gets flooded every day. But I do think that you have created something very special with Grape ID. I think that there is such an important conversation to be had around cybersecurity and anti-racism. For anyone that I haven't met, my name is Verneda White. I am an anti-racism strategist and speaker. My platform is called America's Hot Sauce. Why? Because Black people are America's hot sauce. And we are in the space of ensuring that all communities have an opportunity to thrive. So we really tackle this thing called race so that we can all maximize our global impact. And so it's been exciting as we started having conversations, Rob. I think what piqued my ears most as you talked about kind of cybersecurity, personal data, protecting ourselves, is that there has been, I think there's two pieces in tying into free speech. Where does this cross over into preventing like bullying and harassment? So I think that there has been, I look at platforms like Twitter, for example, that have been used by, or like maybe it was, or even like Parler. There's been some platforms out there where free speech has been touted as the right, but also used to intimidate marginalized people, or been, hate groups or white supremacist groups targeting Black people or people of color, and then saying, but I have, free speech. So how or would your platform allow freedom of expression, but then doesn't necessarily foster the harassment piece and the bullying piece and intimidating people with it?
Yeah, so there, I could think of 3 or 4 just right off the bat, 3 or 4 angles that it helps. And one of them is, just to start off, is the Grape ID app. It literally, the only purpose functionally of it is to verify someone's identity. So either you are who you say you are or you are not. There's no like, well, it depends on your color. Maybe you're the white version or the black version, or like, or the male version, or the like. You are who you are or you are not, and that's all that this app focuses on. So when it comes to censorship or gender or race or anything like that, all of that has nothing to do with if who you are, if you are who you say you are. So it makes the decision binary, where either you are or you are not the same person, and then everything else is left out. So that way, if you are on social media and you want to make a post, it doesn't matter if you're black or white or whatever. There's no what do we call that? Just prejudice or anything like that. Literally, if you are, as long as you are a legitimate person, then you can use it. So it doesn't judge someone using the app based on any other factor other than if they are who they claim that they are. And
okay.
So it's more universally, well, and then the second point is it's more universally accessible. So for communities who do not have, just financial means or to afford to pay for something like an ID or technology, this one is, by design, it's free for anyone to use. And as long as you are who you say you are and you're legitimate, then you can use it forever. And it's designed that way so that businesses end up paying for the service, but the individual of any race or community can use it for free, and it doesn't cost anything. It doesn't even cost their privacy, which is, again, another thing that currently, the way the world works is it's difficult to get our privacy because it costs money, it requires education and time, and that's maybe where communities who don't have that, and I mean, I've been in the situation where I just don't have funds, and I'm just worrying about how I'm going to eat the next meal, not is my data on
Right.
Facebook or something like. But now you can get all of that privacy just automatically using a free platform, so it makes it much more easily accessible.
Okay.
And freedom of speech, yeah. And
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. You were going to say.
What was that?
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. It sounded like you were just getting ready to say around the freedom of speech and some of the challenges that have existed around intimidation and bullying.
Yeah, so there are a couple other points. I just don't want to talk the whole time either, because I want to hear your side and see what you think, where it can help the most. The accessibility and the affordability and the system itself is not designed based on anything other than, if you are who you say you are. So there are no other external factors or existing systems, where I know how you talk about a lot, where there are systems where it's just designed for people who are white or other cultures that have the priority or the upper hand. And I don't think, anyway, and I'm open if you ever do see anything where Grape ID gives anyone the upper hand, because as long as you prove who you are, then anyone can use it.
Okay, so I think what I'm gathering is that because the kind of demographic information is stripped away, if you're interacting on the platform, that in and of itself would lend to people not being able to like target a certain group or like intimidate a certain group, because you're not going into the platform and being able to say, okay, I'm going to, target this group of people or something like that. It's just that encrypted piece, it kind of strips away that demographic information.
Yeah. Yeah, that's accurate. And unless you want, in the end, our main purpose is to provide individuals complete control over their identity and their data. So if you, as a Black woman, if you want to be targeted, and I'll give you an example, like if there's a grant for, Black owned businesses, then maybe you would want to be targeted for that. So in some cases you would want to be, but in other cases where there's no need for any race to be involved at all in decision making, like an ad for something or some sort of anything, then you just it is anonymous. So unless you want to be known, then you ultimately have the choice to decide how your data is used, including
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. No. That's really helpful. I think for me, the other piece that has come up, and you just touched on that. I think that we have historically, and I'm based in Brooklyn, New York, in the United States. I identify as African American, as a direct descendant of American chattel slavery. And so historically, there have been so many ways that policy and infrastructure has been utilized to suppress advancement for Black people in this country. So when you talk about applications, you talk about access. So there's been concerted efforts to deny access to certain resources, whether those are health resources, economic resources, in terms of business, access to capital, being able to apply for a business loan and getting a fair interest rate versus a white counterpart that has the exact same profile, business profile. Excuse me. So I think that there could be a tremendous benefit if we were able to get to a point where, say, for example, gaining access to capital and the criteria, meaning like your business, your numbers, your idea, all the things that go into actually running a business were put at the forefront, and you were able to strip away that demographic information. Mm-hmm. Excuse me. So I've been a little under the weather, so forgive me. That we could then see some progress or actually, I don't know if progress is the right word. It would be interesting to see if that would help start closing some of the gaps in access, some of the gaps in who is getting approved for loans, who's getting the opportunity to build or grow their businesses, where historically certain groups have been targeted and denied being able to move forward in that way. And so I apologize too, Rob. I think for me, I'm on the quieter side because I'm just a little under the weather, and I can feel myself straining my voice a bit.
We can always do this again another time. Yeah, I think for anyone watching too, it helps when we have more specific examples, and just for development of making, promoting anti-racism and also promoting privacy, security, freedom of speech. It is very helpful to have specific examples and use cases of what we're actually doing and how they both help each other, and what actionable, what people can actually do, how they do it, so that they can make what we're talking about happen. When we talk about stuff generally, it's great, but I'm always have the mind of, I love to take action and make what we're talking about become a reality. So I'm looking forward to talking about specific ways that we can do this.
Well, I guess, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm using, so if I made, for example, the access to capital, a more, specific example, what would that look like in terms of a use case for Grape ID? So I guess at this point, we're talking about if you're going to be accessing, applying for a grant or applying for a loan, it's no longer walking into a grant somewhere, because obviously your demographics are on you as you walk in. Yeah. Would it be a use case of like, okay, this is a total online system, and in order to ensure the most equitable outcomes for those who are qualified to access this grant or access this capital, we would be the app would strip away those demographics so that whoever is making a decision is just looking at the criteria, the business criteria. Would that be an example?
That would be an example. And to be even more specific, or at least rephrasing to technically, because my mind goes to technically how it would happen. And the summarized version is, instead of, like you said, walking in, instead someone would fill out a form online. But in this case, if they already have, or if they go sign up for a Grape ID separately, then it's a separate form of identity that can then validate or verify the person's identity and or other credentials like their income, and say that their address is verified, without actually exposing, their photo or what community they live in and other private information that the bank could, like you mentioned, just by seeing a photo or knowing what part of town they're from, they could make subliminal or conscious judgments that are either just that we're trying to prevent. So it would basically separate out the decision processing from having access to data that banks don't necessarily need to make unconscious decisions.
Right. And that's always part of the work. We talk about, undoing racism, unconscious bias. It's very challenging for anyone who grew up in this country not to have a lens of racism, even if you're quote unquote not conscious of it or aware of it. It's because it is what our society is built on. So being able to build tools that help to counteract that, I think has a big future.
Yeah, there's a quick technical term. It's just called zero knowledge proof. And that just means that a bank has zero knowledge about anything that they don't actually specifically need, and that's not actually authorized by, an applicant for a loan. So they don't need to know anything other than the actual income or whatever they're making the judgment criteria on. So that is beautiful, because then it stops, the racism or prejudice,
sexism for gender.
Yeah, gender or disabilities or whatever unintended judgment that occurs. Yeah. So,
I appreciate the optimism. I know, only because
we'll get there.
We'll get there. I say that. Why did my device say overheating? I only say that because that there's a lot of, as we continue to do this work, unconscious bias is typically not that unconscious. There's actually more often than not a intention or consciousness about it. Unconscious bias is a good out. I didn't know what I mean, but it's often much more often conscious than unconscious.
Yeah. Well, there's, what crypto's trying to do is they're trying to remove, the whole banks control our lives and that sort of thing. So everyone's saying, hey, let's do crypto, and then the banks can't control us. That's a form of their consciously deciding to, how to govern our lives of any race or gender. And what we're doing is something very similar. But anyway, I think that we lost Verneda. So anyways, I will conclude the live here right now. And thanks to anyone who watches this. And Verneda and I will be back another time and go over more examples and just developments as time goes on.